bet some of you wish you couldn't see me, don't you, I suppose? But so welcome along to yet another one of our Let's Talk Tech webinars. This one today is on the subject of the Amazon Echo and what can you do with it, okay? And also, what is Alexa? So I'm sure the vast majority of you in this group at the moment have heard of the word Alexa. And many of you will probably have one of these devices in your home. But for those that don't, I'm going to go through.
I'm not sure.
I'm just going to stop my one from speaking because every time I say that word, it goes off. So I'm just going to start from speaking for the time being. Let's just do that here. Alexa. So that's the wrong one. Okay, so
I'm just muting other participants, sorry, as well.
Yeah. So many people in this group would have heard, no doubt, of Alexa, or maybe as an alternative smart speaker called the Google Nest or OK Google. They're both the same sort of thing. So these devices are called smart speakers, okay? And they're little devices, or sometimes big devices, that respond to voice commands. So basically, it's like a little personal assistant that you've got to help you achieve tasks, find out information, set reminders, etc. And I want to go through today the various types of device available, what the costs are involved, and then demonstrate a number of things that you can do with these devices. And this will only be a very small snippet of what you can do, because to be honest, there are thousands and thousands of things you can do with these devices. A lot of it is down to your needs and your, I guess, your experimentation, really. You can do literally anything with one of these devices, as we will find out later. So the Amazon Echo is the most popular smart speaker on the market today. The only other real contender to the Amazon Echo is the Google Nest range of speakers. And we're not going to be covering them today because really the Echo is the one that has the huge market share. Probably 75% of the smart speakers sold today are Amazon smart speakers. So we need two things to get an Amazon Echo device working. You need a smart speaker, and you need a piece of software called Amazon Alexa. And the two things combined make your speaker work. So let's just have a look at the different types of speaker available on the market. I'm going to start with the smallest and work up to the biggest, okay? So the smallest speaker on the market today is what's called an Amazon Echo Dot. And it's a little bit like a tennis ball or an orange, for those people that haven't seen a tennis ball, like an orange in size, maybe slightly bigger. And it looks like this, for those people that can see it. Everyone see this? Oh, for those people that can see what I'm holding up? Okay, so this is an Echo Dot, a bit like a Terry's chocolate orange, in fact, this device here. And this costs £49. Okay, it's a one-off payment. You don't have to pay anything else, just £49 for this device here. This is the newest version of the Amazon Echo Dot. It's called the 4th generation. The previous generations were slightly different. And I have a 3rd generation here, which I'm going to show you, which is a little bit more like an ice hockey puck, or like a small tin of salmon or baked beans, one of those very small tins. So this is the one I'm going to be using for demonstration purposes, because I've got it all set up and ready to go. But this particular one, the 3rd generation, is available for sale at the moment at £34. So again, fairly cheap. The next one is similar to the Echo Dot in shape. So it's this shape here, but it's about 3 times the size. It's a little bit like a small football. I don't have one, unfortunately, to show in this particular webinar today, but imagine this sort of like Echo Dot, 3 times the size. That's the width and the height. It's got additional microphones inside it and a better quality speaker inside it compared to the Echo Dot. And that particular model costs £89. £89. This is the 4th generation of the Echo. It's just simply called Echo, the bigger one. It doesn't have the word dot after it, it's just Echo. The prior version to the Echo, the 3rd generation, looks like this. It looks like maybe almost a tube of Pringles, or like a very large tin of baked beans. So it's sort of like cylindrical. It's around about 4 inches wide and about 8 inches tall. And that's called an Echo. And many of us here may have one of these in our home already. So this is the 3rd generation, and that's available for £74, this one here. So again, it's a one-off purchase. Now, there are bigger ones of these devices. I don't have the next one up here, but the next one up is called the Echo Plus. And it's more or less this size. So that's 4 inches wide, but instead of being 8 inches tall, it's 12 inches tall. So it's quite tall. And it's got an additional piece of hardware built into it called a hub. Okay, so a hub allows this device to connect remotely to other devices in the house, which I'll speak about later.
And the different white things, but I'm not used this. No, it stopped again.
Yeah, I'll stop speaking.
Oh,
So someone's got
sorry,
their microphone on.
I couldn't get in. I've now got in. Thank you. Thank you very much, Dawn.
Okay.
I'm going back to my room.
Okay.
Sorry.
Are you in?
I'm in now, but I'm going back to my room. I had to go and get an assistant downstairs.
Okay. So I've just been talking about the different sorts of Echo device
Oh, yes.
available, different sizes, different shapes. The starting price is £34, and they go right up to about £250, these devices. And I'll tell you the differences as we go along. So this bigger one has got a better quality speaker inside it, and it's got additional microphones inside it. And I'll describe why you need those shortly. Okay. There is an even bigger one than this. It's almost twice the width of this and a little bit higher than this. And it's called the Echo Studio. And that is a magnificent piece of technology. It's really designed for playing music at quite a loud level. So it's like you could almost run a disco on it. It's extremely powerful, and it's £189, that particular version. And then there are some devices with screens on them. So they've actually got a screen on them. Now, I haven't got one, but I have got something similar to show you. So I'm going to show you this
device 1413.
So this is actually a tablet, okay? But the Echo Show range of devices have screens on them. So these devices are ideal really for people that may be deaf, hard of hearing, to communicate with family. You can do video calls on them. You can bring up maps of places, etc. These range from £75 to £250, depending on the size. There are 4 different sizes: 5 inches, 8 inches, 10 inches, and 15 inches. So I'm just going to. So this is called the Echo Show range, and if you've got not very good vision, then there's really no point getting one of these, to be honest. But if you like watching videos or doing video calls with people, maybe things like recipes, you can bring a recipe up and it'll put it on the screen for you, etc. This is the device for you. So they range from £75 to £250, depending on the size that you get. So just about the costs involved here. So once you have purchased one of these devices, the only other cost that you will incur is if you decide to subscribe to the music service that Amazon offer, which is £4 a month. If you don't subscribe to that, everything else you use is free. Okay. Now, what you do need to get to one of these to work, you need a broadband connection in your home.
All right, yeah.
So most people will have a broadband connection. You need an electrical wall socket in which to plug it into. Again, we've all going to have one of those. Ideally, a meter plus away from another electrical source. So away from a TV or a lamp or a radio. So give it its own dedicated piece of space in the house. You also need a smartphone or tablet. It doesn't have to be your smartphone or tablet. It could be a friend's or a neighbour's, in order to set the device up. And finally, you need what's called the Amazon Alexa app to install onto the tablet or smartphone and go through the setup procedure. That setup procedure doesn't take long. For someone that knows what they're doing, it takes about 5 minutes. So from taking your device out of the box, plugging it into the wall and setting it up is about 5 minutes. Now, we have volunteers at Site for Surrey that can help people do that if need be, okay? But usually somebody will have a family member or a friend or a neighbour that would help them do that. But in the event that you don't, we can organise a volunteer to help you get it up and running. So more about the technical side a little bit. Each of these devices has a microphone and a speaker inside it, especially the small devices like this one here, the Echo Dot. The bigger devices have up to 7 microphones inside them. Now, the benefit of having those extra microphones is it will hear you when you speak to it from a range of different angles. So you could be in the kitchen or upstairs, in the dining room, and you speak to the device and it will hear you. If you have the smaller device, you really need to be in the same room for it to work. So there's sometimes a good reason for going for that bigger device to get that range of microphones. The quality of sound on these is remarkably good for the size of the device. And we'll get into that in a second or two. Okay. So at this stage, has anyone got any questions about these devices?
Can I ask Sue, Derek, can
you speak? Can you say that again? You seem to have gone off. You're not coming through.
No.
It's my fault, I'm muting myself.
Try again.
What the software is that you need? You said the app.
Yeah, the app is called the Amazon Alexa app.
Alexa.
Okay, so if you're using an Android smartphone or tablet, you can go to the Play Store and search for Amazon Alexa, and it'll be pretty much the very first thing that comes up in the list.
Right.
Okay, if you're on an iPhone or an Apple iPad, you go to the App Store, and again you search for Amazon Alexa, and it's a little app. It takes about 30 seconds to download, put onto your device, and then you need to set it up. Now, during the setup process, you will be asked for your email address and your Amazon password. Okay, so your email address you use with Amazon, or your password, and your password. If you don't have an Amazon email address or password, you can just create one at that point. It will say, don't have an account, would you like to create one? It doesn't cost you any money. All it is an identification on the Amazon system that you are associated with this particular device. So it's necessary to have that Amazon account in order to use one of these things. It's free, doesn't cost anything. You're not giving away any sort of like personal information. You just type in an email address, a password, and that's it. Okay, so that's pretty straightforward for most people. For those people that struggle, again, we've got volunteers that can help with that. Now, these devices all have buttons on the top of them. Okay, there are 4 buttons on the top of these devices. There's a volume up, a volume down, a mute. So when it's on mute, and you speak to it, nothing will happen. It won't hear you. The microphone is essentially turned off. And the other button is for setup. So it's a button you press in the event that your device doesn't set up. You can do it manually with that button. I've rarely had to use that other additional button. So really, there are 3 buttons that you can worry about. That's the volume up, the volume down, and the mute. So when the device is on mute, a red light shines around the top of the device, indicating that your microphone is turned off. Okay. When the device is not on mute, if I just turn it off of mute here, if I find the right button, I always find the wrong button on these things. Alexa, let's wake it up. Hello, Alexa. Yeah, so when the button is not on mute and you say the word beginning with A, the blue light appears to indicate that it's listening to you.
I don't have an answer for that.
I'm sure you don't. So you've got to be quite careful with these things, because if you say that word beginning with A, then L, then E, then X, then A, it sets it off. Now, what it's basically doing is saying, oh, you're talking to me? Yes, what do you want? That's what it's kind of saying. And the blue light comes on. And you can get it to play a noise. If you can't see the blue light, you can get it to play a noise to indicate that the blue light is on. And that's something I always recommend people do, whether they can see it or not, is to turn that noise on. It just gives you that peace of mind that it's listening to you. I will be sending out a handout later, or maybe tomorrow or soon after the webinar, on the various things you can do on all of these devices. And in that handout, there are instructions on how to get that noise to come on after you say the word beginning with A. Okay. Now you can change that word beginning with A to be another word if you don't like that. Say you've got someone in the house called Alex and you regularly shout him, this device may go off because it might think you're talking to it. So you can change that word to Amazon or Echo. So so each time you say Amazon or Echo, that will wake this device up as well. But usually people don't want to change the name. They're quite happy with it. And we're going to concentrate on that word beginning with A. So you can get these devices from, unsurprisingly, Amazon, Argos, PC World, Tesco's, Currys Digital, Sainsbury's, a whole host of places, WH Smith's, but typically Amazon will be the place to get it from. And from time to time, there are discounts. They are on discounted prices. So sometimes you'll find them 20% off or even 25% off. And that happens quite frequently, those discounts. So if you check out the Amazon website, let's say every week, what I would almost guarantee to you, if you checked it out once a week for a month, at least one of those times you check it, there'll be a discount on the device. So you have to be, you might be lucky and get something that was going to cost you £89 and get it for 65 or something like that. So a decent saving, but it's not the end of the world if you end up paying full price, because it's still a really, really cheap investment. So what can we do with these things? Well, as indicated earlier, literally anything, literally anything. And one thing, just to give you an idea what it can do, I'm just going to ask it what the weather is like today. Okay, Alexa, what's the weather like today?
I'm not sure where you are. For future reference, you can enter your address in the device settings in your Alexa app.
Okay.
For now, weather for what city?
Red Hill.
Currently, in Red Hill, United Kingdom, it's 66 degrees Fahrenheit with mostly cloudy skies. Today, you can expect cloudy skies with a high of 67 degrees and a low of 52 degrees.
Now, initially it said, I don't know where you are. Now, on this particular device, I haven't put in the location where I am. If I had entered the location into my Alexa app, it would have picked up that I'm in Fetcham and it would have given me the weather for Fetcham. But you can also just ask it where the weather is in anywhere. So let's say Alexa, what's the weather like in Ontario?
Which city in Ontario?
Toronto.
Right now in Toronto, Canada, it's 65 degrees Fahrenheit with mostly cloudy skies. Today's forecast has rainy weather, with a high of 72 degrees and a low of 55 degrees.
Okay, so pretty much anywhere in the world, I can find out the weather on one of these things. So if I was going on holiday in a week's time, and I wanted to know the long-range forecast for that location, it would give me the long-range forecast for that location. So it's just a very simple thing this can do. There are more complicated things, and I'm going to show you quite a few things today of what these can do. I can turn the volume up and down with my voice. I can say, Alexa, volume 6. Okay, so that's turned the volume up to 6. The scale is 0 to 10. 0 is no sound at all, and 10 is maximum. So I'm going to ask it the same question, but this time you'll find it's quite a lot louder. Alexa, what's the weather like in Red Hill?
Currently, in Red Hill, United Kingdom, it's 66 degrees Fahrenheit with mostly cloudy skies. Today, you can expect cloudy skies with a high of 67 degrees and a low of 52 degrees.
Okay, let's really go for it. Alexa, volume 9. Alexa, what's the weather like in Toronto?
Currently, in Red Hill, United Kingdom, it's 66 degrees Fahrenheit with mostly cloudy skies.
Good.
Today, you can expect
Alexa,
cloudy skies.
Stop. So you can hear the difference in the volume, and it's pretty good quality. Look at the size of this speaker. It's in the palm of my hand, and it's blaring out quite a nice quality sound, and it's fairly clear to understand. I'm just going to turn it down a little bit because it's a bit loud for what we want to do. Alexa, volume 6. Okay. Now I can also change the voice if I want to. Let's ask it another question and see what we can do. Alexa, what's the deepest lake in the world?
The deepest lake on Earth is Lake Baikal at 5,387.1 feet.
Alexa, change your voice.
Okay, you're all set. I'll be the voice you hear when you speak to this device. If you'd like to change how you wake me up, you can also change your wake word.
Alexa, what's the deepest lake in the world?
The deepest lake on Earth is Lake Baikal at 5,387.1 feet.
Okay, so that's a nice sound. Now, the thing about changing the voice is if you do have a hearing impairment of some sort, you know, people often miss out on the high pitches or the low pitches when they've got a hearing impairment. And changing the voice may make the difference between you understanding it and not understanding it. I'm pretty sure you can get it to speak quicker and slower. Let's have a look at this. Alexa, speak faster.
I don't know that.
Okay, so he doesn't know how to do that. But you can change some of the settings of the voice by just saying, change your voice, speak slower. Alexa, what's on BBC One tonight?
Tonight on BBC One and at 7 p.m, it is Wimbledon 2022, and at 8:30 p.m, it is The Repair Shop, and at 9 p.m, it is The Great British Sewing Bee, and at 10 p.m, it is BBC News at 10. Try asking me, what's on TV tonight? Or say exit.
Exit. So I'm going to put it back on the lady's voice because for most people, that's the one they're familiar with. Alexa, change your voice.
Okay, you're all set. I'll be the voice you hear when you speak to this device.
So they're just very simple things you can do with this thing. You can ask it to convert money. If you're going abroad, you can say how many dollars are in the pound or vice versa. You can convert units of measure, how many pounds are in a stone. Well, basic things. But there are many more things you can do. And let's have a look at one or two more of these more interesting things. Now, let's say that I take medication on a daily basis, but I'm a bit prone to forget to take it. And I wanted to take my tablets at, say, 7 p.m. every night. I can set what's called a recurring alarm to remind me at 7 o'clock every night to take my tablets. I'm going to do one in about a minute's time. I'm going to say set a reminder for 1 minute. Alexa, set a reminder for 1 minute.
What's the reminder for?
Take your medication.
Okay, I'll create a reminder to go off in 1 minute. By the way, when your reminder rings, you can snooze it by saying, remind me again in 15 minutes.
Okay, so as he's just pointed out, when the reminder goes off, I can say, remind me again in 10 minutes or 15 minutes, because I might be in the middle of doing something. But it's a really nifty way of remembering how to do things. On a Thursday night in Red Hill, where I live, we have to put the bins out for the following morning. So I always set this to go off about 9 o'clock at night and say, put the bins out. And then that way I don't forget. So I'm just going to give it another few more seconds, and then this is going to remind me about taking my medication. So let's just, it's like waiting for a bomb to go off, isn't it? So we should be down to the last few seconds now. Now, when it goes off, all I need to do is say stop, and it will stop playing the reminder. So come on, here we go. You can bet as soon as I start speaking, it will go off. So I'm going to just wait for a second.
This is a reminder.
And there's my reminder. Now, it's not very loud. Alexa, stop. So the reminder itself wasn't particularly loud. I can change that volume of the reminder inside the Alexa app on my smartphone or tablet. Alexa, stop.
Sorry, I'm not sure about that.
Alexa, cancel. Okay. Now she will answer you back. If she doesn't understand something, she'll say, I don't know how to do that. Or could you say it again? So she does learn from you as well. So if I told her to shut up, she might say, well, I respect you. You know, what, are you telling me to shut up? Or she might just shut up. From time to time, she has got a good sense of humor. And these smart speakers are learning all the time about our activities and our habits. And you can actually train the speaker to understand your own voice, your specific voice. So when you speak to it, it will say, hello, Gary, or hello, Debbie, or whatever it is. So it will start calling you by your name if you train it. Personally, I don't like that. So I don't bother with it. So what else can I do with this? Let's have a little thing, something practical. Oh, I know, Alexa, play Radio 2.
Playing BBC Radio 2.
BBC Sounds.
Alexa, stop. So I can play literally any radio station in the world on this device. All I need to do is know the name of the radio station. I can play podcasts. Podcasts are recordings of radio broadcasts. So a good example might be, Alexa, play the Archers podcast.
Here's the Archers from Apple Podcasts. Here's the latest episode, the 28th of June 2022.
BBC Sounds. Music, radio, podcasts.
You're listening to Tuesday's episode of The Archers from BBC Radio 4.
Beth, are you in there?
Alexa,
Please
stop. So podcasts are recordings of radio programs, or they are particular broadcasts that individuals or organizations have created. There are literally millions of podcasts. Now, I'm not kidding when I say millions. There literally are millions of these in the world today. Different topics, different languages. And a podcast is what's called, it's a collection of episodes. So the word podcast could be just one episode or something, or it could be a collection. So for example, the Archers podcast will consist of thousands of episodes. Or if I did a podcast today called Let's Talk Tech, that would just be one episode. So it depends on who's creating these things and what the purpose of it is. But podcasts are very popular. I listen to them all the time. There are technology podcasts that you can tune into. There are gardening political, finance, entertainment, transgender, anything. You know, you can find a podcast on any topic, and this device will find it for you. So that's a really good use for this device. You can play music on these devices, but you normally need to subscribe to a service. Now, Cypher won't allow me to subscribe to a service on this device here, but typically the cost is $4.99 a month to do that. On my home device, I do subscribe to the music, and I can play up to 50 million different songs for that $4.99. So if I was the sort of person that was regularly buying a CD, maybe one a month or two a month, then it's going to be far cheaper and more effective to subscribe to a music service, because it's just so much easier to say play so and so, as opposed to go for a CD collection, get your magnifier out and see if you've got the right one, put it in the machine, try and find the right track. You can just do it instantly on one of these. Okay, so those sort of people that like their music, this is the device for you. You can even use other music services such as Apple Music or Spotify, or I think there's one called Yahoo Music. No, sorry, not Yahoo, YouTube Music. There's quite a few different services. You can play all of them through this device as well if you wanted to, but they all incur a cost. Any questions at this stage? I've got a few more things to do.
You can also play a lot of the talking newspapers as well, can't you, through it?
You can, but the one, there used to be what's called a skill. A skill is a small computer program that somebody has created to work on an Amazon Echo with Alexa. And there used to be a skill called My Talking Newspaper, but I don't think that exists anymore. The lady Sue, does that still exist?
I don't know. It is Sue asking about it, because I've been to the Talking News Federation meetings and they were quite keen on it so that people would access their talking newspaper through the Echo. We weren't keen at the EETN because we weren't sure about security and things like that.
Yes.
So I don't know how it stands. I'd have to get in touch with the TNF and find out.
You can, depending on what budget you have, Sue, and it's not normally very big, is it? With a
no.
So you can get somebody to write you a skill specific to your talking newspaper.
Right.
So they write you it's a bit like a little computer program.
Yeah.
They write that for you. I'm not too sure on the cost, okay, but it might be in the low hundreds of pounds to do that. But that would just be for your talking newspaper, and then all you would have to say is play the EE talking newspaper, and it would just play it on this device. I don't think the security is a major problem, really. Some people get a bit hung up on security, okay, because whilst this is listening to me, when I say the word beginning with A, it's listening to me. If I turn the microphone off because I don't like the idea of the security, then it's useless, isn't it? Because what can I do with it when the microphone's turned off?
Yes, yeah.
So sometimes you have to say to yourself, you know, I accept there is a minuscule possibility that I might get hacked.
Yes.
But I would look at on the other side and say, what am I missing out on?
The advantages, yes.
Yeah, you know, you're missing out on such a lot of stuff, and I think these people that hack these devices, they're really going to hack big companies, you know, and get into their systems, not a little you sitting in your lounge or me sitting in my kitchen. Yeah, they're not bothered. I'm going to try the talking newspaper skill. I tried it earlier. Didn't work. Let's just try it again. Alexa, open My Talking Newspapers.
Sorry, the My Talking Newspaper skill is no longer available. You can find more skills in the Alexa app.
Okay, so it's telling me it's no longer available, which is a bit of disappointment because there used to be quite a few books, talking newspapers on there.
There were, yeah.
Let's try something a bit random. Okay, Alexa, play the Runnymede talking newspaper.
Sorry, I'm not sure.
So it just can't find any of these talking newspapers. So that for you, Sue, and organisations like yours, which by the way, Sue represents the Epsom and Ewell Talking Newspaper Association, or Talking Newspapers, that could be problematic, couldn't it? Because
Yeah.
this would be a great way of playing your newspapers.
Yes, yeah.
But that's
We
still-
still use the data pen and send it out to our listeners. But
Yeah.
now Talking News Federation, we're very keen on moving over to it. So I'm surprised. Yeah, it's something I've only just learned through you that they've taken away that skill. So
They have. There may well be an alternative skill, but
yeah,
I would need to just research that and find it. If I do find out this afternoon later on, I'll email you and say this is the alternative skill.
thank you.
And you can then, I think what you'd have to do is you need to contact the vendor of that skill
Yes,
and get them to add your newspaper to their skill.
yes. I think it was the British Wireless or somebody like that.
Yeah,
was
there is a British Wireless with
doing
my
it. Yeah,
skill.
yeah. So that's, yeah, thank you.
I do like the memory sticks, by the way. I think they're really good.
Yes, yeah,
For people who aren't very technically minded, just shoving it in a little slot and pressing a button,
yeah.
perfect, isn't it?
Yeah, that's what most of our listeners, well, all of our listeners use as far as I know, yes.
Yeah, I definitely like that. It's really
Yeah.
good. I'll go into what else I can do on one of these. There's a few other things I can do on this. And remember, this is just a snippet of what we can do. There is literally tens and tens of thousands of things you can do, depending on what your wants are. But I can adjust my heating using one of these. Now, at the moment, I'm not connected to my home Echo device, but on my home, in my home, I have a system called Hive. Okay, and that's a system whereby I can control my heating using my phone, using the thermostat on the wall, or using one of these, Amazon Echo. And I say to it, turn the heating up, and it says, okay, I've turned the heating up. I'll say turn it down, etc. I can say set the heating to 21, and it will do it for me. So it's just right, instead of me getting out of my chair and using the thermostat on the wall, it just does it for me. So for that to work, you do need to have a system like Hive or Nest or one of these special heating systems. It just connects to your boiler. It's a little cable that goes on your boiler and then connects to your broadband via what's called a little hub. It's a little tiny device, sits next to your router, and it connects your heating to your Echo. I can also change my lights. I can say, turn the lights on, turn the lights off, dim the lights, change the light to blue or red or green, and it will do all of those things for me. You do need special bulbs to do that. Okay, and you can't do that on one of these dot devices. You need to have the Echo, which is the bigger one. I'll just find it, show you it again. You need to have one of these devices or bigger to get the ability of turning your lights on and off. Okay, I can open my curtains and close my curtains with one of these. Not that I do that, to be honest, but I can. I can open the blinds and close the blinds. I can answer my doorbell with one of these. All of these things can be done, but you need special doorbells, special curtain rails, special blinds for it to happen. But for someone that's a wheelchair user, the ability to close the curtains and turn the lights on and off, that sort of thing, is really, really useful, because sometimes they can't reach the switches for the lights, depending on where they're living. They might find drawing the curtains problematic because they're tucked behind a TV or something like that. So getting these automated pieces of equipment to do it for you, it can change someone's, way of life for the better. So I think these devices, these smart speakers, I'll put that down for a second, are a real way forward for people, and they're not designed for blind people, are they? They're just a mainstream piece of equipment that just happens to work perfectly for people with vision impairments.